The following broadcast is brought to you by Accelerate Church. Accelerate Church is located in Amarillo, Texas at 4400 South Crockett Street. If you're in the area and would like to stop by for a service, we would love to have you. Our service times are Sundays at 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. If you'd like a copy of this message for a loved one or for yourself, please give us a call so we can get a copy in your hand. Our phone number is 806-418-8913. We also invite you to download our app. Our Accelerate Church app is available on your Apple or Android device. You can listen to previous sermons preached by Pastor Jeremy, as well as watch live streaming at the touch of a button. For more information about our ministry, log on to acceleratechurch.cc.
Welcome to the Accelerate Church radio broadcast. My name's Jeremy Fowle. I'm the pastor at Accelerate Church in Amarillo, Texas, and we want you. We have service coming up Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central, also Sundays at 10 a.m. We would love to have you in our services. Now, if you can't be there in person, you could always join us online at acceleratechurch.cc. Just look up Accelerate Church on YouTube or on Facebook. You'll find us there if you don't have a local church. If you do, you need to get in there and be faithful where God called you. Praise the Lord. And I have my pastor in the studio. I'm excited about that. Dr. Mark T. Barclay, how are you today?
I'm alive and well. That's how I start out every time you ask me that, because it's how I am.
Do you get tired of me asking that?
No, I do not. I like to testify, and it gives me an opportunity, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
And I remember something a worldwide, very well-known evangelist once said, Jesus Christ saved me, and if he never did another thing for me, the rest of my life, it was worth enough to shout for 10,000 years.
Wow, isn't that true?
Being a Christian.
Praise
what a
God.
way to go, man.
It's a miracle.
Yes, it is.
The more I think about it, the more I see as time passes lives where God changes people and takes them when they were amounting to nothing, and then he makes them something. It's awesome to see. In the book of Revelation, chapter 12, we find out an interesting piece of information, Pastor, where believers, it says, overcome the devil, Satan, the accuser of the brethren, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Yesterday, we started talking about your testimony, how you were filled with rage as a young boy at your dad's funeral, really. The preacher man saying that God took your dad and needed him in heaven. And you left there and you said it was demonic in nature, and you were raised with all this hate. Of course, you met Miss Vicki Barclay. Well, she wasn't Vicki Barclay at the time, but she has been now for many years.
Yes.
You wanted to marry, you got married.
Yes.
And just pick up right there with your life story, if you don't mind.
I was so troubled, and I was so filled with rage and anger. I respected my grandpa, and he really helped me after my dad died. I love my grandma, and on that side of our family. And I love my mama, and I love Vicky. And I hated life. And I hated everything and everybody else. And since that day at the casket, I hated all preachers.
Wow.
Even when I got born again and started going to church, that was one of my major hurdles. Well, this preacher's probably like the one that told me that this God needed my dad more than I needed him. What's God need my dad for?
Wow.
And leave us abandoned. That rage drove me to join the Marines during the Vietnam War.
Wow.
My mama said, "Why would you do that, son?" Because in my hometown, the draft was very high numbers. And a large percentage of the kids and guys I went to school with died in Vietnam. And so I said, I want to go hurt people. It's a legal way to go hurt people. That was my motive.
That was it.
Dumb as that sounds. But that's what evil does to anybody, even a young man. And so I joined the Marines. I did real well in the Marines. I excelled, and I ended up being a Marine leader. I put 2 trips over, 21 months total during the Vietnam War. And during that time, I met Jesus Christ, the person of, who appeared to me. And I accepted him as my Lord and Savior, 1972 and a half. I met him on foreign soil, and I've never turned back.
Let's talk about the details of that for just a minute. when you say you met him on foreign soil, there was something that kind of led up to that, wasn't there? When you came home when Miss Vicky was having a baby.
Vicky was having our first baby, our daughter Dawn, and the doctor that we had didn't think it was right that her husband was in the combat zone. So he red tagged me, is what it was called, I guess, in those days. So Red Cross came and got me offline to be with Vicky, because Dawn was born with a little medical issue that once I got there, the doctor said, oh, she'll grow out of that. But during that time, Vicky was kind of staying with her parents because I'm going back to Vietnam. So we're in this little apartment, and these two young people, of course, I was a young person, so they probably my age, 18, 19, they come banging on my door. They started witnessing to me about Jesus. And I said, well, I want to hear that. This God you're talking about took my dad because he needed him for some reason.
Mm.
This, by the way, is why I have a disgust about bad doctrine, bad teaching, and preachers that don't know any better. That preacher didn't know any better. That's what he believed.
Right.
But he was dead wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to blame him for my my radical life, all right? But maybe I wouldn't have gone the way I did if he wouldn't have had that dumb teaching.
Right.
But nonetheless. So I said, you need to get out of here. And he kept talking. So I really just nailed him and knocked him off my porch.
Just punched him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not proud of that, but that's where I wasn't even born again yet. And by the way, just because you're born again doesn't mean you're fixed.
Right.
It takes a while in the church to fix you. But at that point, my first trip to Vietnam, I wasn't born again. If I wasn't demon possessed, I was certainly a candidate. I was on their radar, you know.
Wow.
Well, the next day, he came back. Now, you know, he's got 2 black eyes and a broken nose and where I punched him. And he come back and rang my doorbell again.
Same guy.
Same guy.
Just a guy witnessing to you.
Guy witnessing, passing out tracts. And I said, oh, you're back again. So I said, stay right here. So I went and got my pistol, my .45, and I come to the door and I said, maybe the fist didn't work for you.
Whoa.
And so he started yelling and running. He ran down my steps, across my yard of that little apartment complex, out in the parking lot, and yelled back to me. And this is what he said: you better get your life together with God, because he's got something for you to do. And I said, well, you better run for your life. So he took off running. Well, I got back on duty. I couldn't get that guy off my mind.
So you go back to Vietnam.
Yeah. I just couldn't get him off my mind. Why would he come back?
Yeah.
Because my thoughts in those days, nobody's really that dumb. I mean, I hit him hard, and he come back all busted up and rang the same doorbell. It wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
He knew where he was going. I couldn't get him off my mind.
Wow.
So I'm doing this certain work that we did, and this corporal's with me, and I said, let me tell you a story. So I told him the story.
You guys you're behind enemy lines, right? When
Oh,
this is
yeah,
happening?
we're on mission, yeah.
Wow.
I said, you know, this guy, and I told him that story. And so sometimes, you know, you're so tired and you got to still try to work, dead tired, sleep deprivation for sure for 2 or 3, 4 days sometimes. So we would lean back to back. And he literally got up, come around and looked in my face and said, well, maybe if that guy came back a second time, that God has something for you to do, and you better get right with God. Well, I grabbed him by the throat. It's like, you're as demon-driven as I am. What do you know about God? Get out of my face. And I get judged a lot for this. This was my salvation prayer. I looked up to heaven and said, Lord, these Christian people say you're up there. I don't know anything about that. But if you'd have a guy like me and there really is a God, then you can have me.
Wow.
For the first time in my entire life, I felt peace come in my heart. It was raining that day, and I still felt warm tears run down my face. And when the Lord come inside of me, it literally, it melted me, and I became a new creation. So when we preachers preach out of Corinthians that old things are passed away and, all things have become new and that we're new creatures, I'm a living witness to that. I really am. And I've never turned back. I've been totally revolutionized by that day, by that one simple prayer.
So this happened after your friend, who you mentioned was as demon-possessed as you.
Yeah, he certainly was.
And he said, God must have a plan for you. And you gave an unorthodox prayer, but it was from your heart.
Well, how do you pray when you've never been taught
to
pray a sinner's prayer? I never read a Christian book.
But the key was that you meant it.
I did mean it. I did mean it. And when the Lord came inside of me, it wasn't in my head. I think that's the real deal. He came right into my soul, and he changed me. And you know what? That hatred left me. When I got born again, all that hatred left me. I didn't hate anymore. So,
when you went back to your buddy, could he see a difference in you?
Oh, yeah, everybody did.
Wow.
But, once I really got a grip on this, my family doctor, when I was 9 years old, I'm sitting on his little bench. Dr. Wilson was his name, Harrison, Michigan. Me and my mama. And he said, Mrs. Barclay, your son's bleeding inside from alcohol. He's an alcoholic. And this is how he said it. If you don't get him off from alcohol, he'll never see 18, 19, 20 years old.
Wow.
Well, I'm 19 now at this time that I get born again, and I'm an alcoholic. There's no doubt about it. People always say, oh, man, what a story. You're not an alcoholic at 9 years old. And I say, shut your face. You obviously were never raised in a home with alcoholics, because there's booze everywhere, refrigerator, cupboard, left on the table, in the cars.
Yeah.
Then when my mama, she was probably about 80, 82, 85, I said, Mama, how on earth does a kid become a 9-year-old alcoholic? My mama hung her head and started crying. And she said, all of my life I was hoping you would never ask me this question. I'm so ashamed of it.
Wow.
And I said, well, Mom, I don't want to hurt you. And she said, when you were just a little squirt, you ran around, you wanted bib overhauls when you were a kid, like your grandpa was a farmer. So I had these little bibs. And you'd stick your sucky bottle in the back pocket because you weren't totally weaned. So I'd put juice in there. Well, your relatives, your uncles and whatever, they thought it was cool, and they would sneak alcohol in your bottle. Then you'd slur and you'd get tipsy. But, son, it got in your blood. And I had nothing to do with it. When I found out, I'd chew them out. I'd run them off. Wow. But it was too late. And so that's what marked my life. That was one of the binding forces of my whole life.
Wow. And I hate that we're out of time right here at this spot, but we'll pick up here tomorrow. God has totally changed everything, and now you travel the world as a missionary and
yes, I do.
Minister everywhere. It's amazing to think what God can do
yes.
with someone the way you're describing your upbringing and the life that you had. That tells me that there's people listening to us that need to hear this.
Yes.
God has a plan for your life.
Yes, everybody.
What is your website if someone would like to check out your ministry, Pastor?
MarkTBarclay.com.
Please check that out, and I hope that you'll tune in tomorrow as we pick this story up, hearing Dr. Barclay's testimony right here on the Accelerate Church radio broadcast.
You've been listening to the Accelerate Church radio broadcast, and if you'd like a copy of this message for a loved one or for yourself, please give us a call so we can get a copy in your hand. Our phone number is 806-418-8913. We also invite you to download our app. Our Accelerate Church app is available on your Apple or Android device. If you're in the area and would like to stop by for a service, we would love to have you. We're located at 4400 South Crockett Street in Amarillo, Texas, and our service times are Sundays at 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We look forward to meeting you very soon.